So let's start, Katie, with the big idea roundtables. Everybody's been talking quite a lot about that in recent weeks. First of all, let's tell folks what the big idea roundtables are and how this idea came about.
Sure. So the Big Idea Roundtables just concluded. They were a series of 9 conversations with small groups, or at least intended to be small. Some brought in overflow crowds around the county, focused on the question of how should Arlington grow? These conversations, or the need for them, really had their genesis in the idea that we have a lot of opportunities to weigh in on the specifics in Arlington County, on public policy issues, sometimes actually pretty large public policy issues like affordable housing or tree canopy and natural spaces. But they can get a little bit technical. How far should an accessory dwelling unit be set back from the neighboring property, for example, or where should an elementary school facility go? And what's underlying all of those more technical conversations is a high-level concern or excitement or just plain differences of opinion about the big picture question, which is, how is Arlington growing and changing? What do we welcome about that, and what do we feel some concern about? So the Big Idea Roundtables were an opportunity for neighbors to come together and primarily talk to other neighbors and citizens about how they feel and the answer to that question of how Arlington should grow.
Okay. And you know, Carol, one of the positive aspects of this is, you know, we spend so much time on the granular things, the next site plan, the next proposal, the next task force, whatever. This was a chance to take the conversation up a level. Think about the big picture, because managing, shaping our growth, it's one of our central challenges today.
Absolutely. Well, we had a chance to speak to some of the residents who attended these meetings. Let's take a quick look, and then we'll talk about what they had to say.
I've lived here for more than 40 years and never been part of something like this, and I just think it's good not only for the county government, but for those of us who live here to hear other just regular people and what we care about.
I've been here in Arlington now for 12 years, it'll be 13 in October. So my knowledge of Arlington, even though it's been that long, is very limited. I know North Arlington, and I thought all of Arlington was like that.
Some of my frustrations or some of my concerns that I felt as a young Arlingtonian actually were visible in all parts of the county, across all different demographics, across all different age ranges.
We can look at Arlington in terms of the life cycle of an individual and see how does this person do in Arlington as a child, as a young adult, as a married parent of young children, as a midlife professional, and as a senior, and follow one person through their life cycle and see what sort of community do we want this person to have.
I heard the voices of the people that are my tenants, and they were wonderful voices and lovely people, and the fact that we could be in a room and have a dialogue as human being to human being was awesome.
The idea that we are having these 9, 10, 12 big roundtable conversations and that we're jotting everything down is helpful, but I really hope that something comes from it in terms of movement.
Okay, so a lot of really interesting comments that came across there. Was this the kind of thing you were expecting, or were there some surprises in the mix?
Absolutely. I loved the comment about the major takeaway somebody had was the opportunity not just to give feedback to county government, but to talk to and hear from their fellow citizens. That really was one of our chief goals. You know, we had described it as, in almost all of our civic engagement, the primary objective is for residents and stakeholders to give feedback to the board or to county staff or maybe to our commissions. Secondarily, maybe they'll hear from each other and learn something from another's perspective, but the primary goal really is that feedback. And here it was flipped. The primary objective really was that opportunity for people to talk to others, have some of their perspectives validated or challenged, find points of commonality, as one person mentioned. But certainly, as one of the participants noted, we were taking pretty detailed notes, and we're looking forward to trying to summarize, at least at a pretty high level, what we heard. There's no specific policy action for the board as a result of these roundtables. Again, the conversation really was the thing. But I think for all of the board members who were able to attend, the commissioners who facilitated, and the county staff that was in the room, we'd be hard-pressed to not have our thoughts shaped by some of the great conversation we heard.
No question. And the one thing that really struck me also was, you know, a lot of times these community processes, it's the community interacting with staff. Here, it was that, but it was also different community voices speaking at a peer level, an eye level with each other. People saying, "You've got a good point, sir," or "I hadn't thought about that." You know, that type of thing. The dialogue back and forth among members of the community, very disparate, very different. And yet all sharing a common goal of how we can make Arlington a better place, and confront our challenges.
And probably just a different forum in that it's folks getting to talk to each other about issues that you wouldn't normally talk to each other on the corner while you're walking the dog or in the park or what have you.
Exactly.
And it's also the issues you wouldn't normally talk about in a county feedback forum. And so when we talk about this need to pull up to 30,000 feet, right? Even conversations that are as explicit as ones about, for example, affordable housing, don't get to the biggest picture, even the heart of what we're talking about here, which is concerns about ensuring that Arlington is still a diverse and inclusive place as we go forward. That is so interwoven with questions of affordability. But when we have these policy dialogues, we quickly get to things like how much are we funding the Affordable Housing Investment Fund, and where should the geographic distribution of committed affordable units go? These are all important, they're related to the big picture, but they don't always afford us the opportunity to really put on the table what it is that we're most hopeful and worried about.
Did any kind of themes emerge that you saw with the ones that you attended?
You know, I think one theme was, almost to a person, everybody said how much they value their own community, their own neighborhood, but yet we're a mosaic, we're a part of the bigger picture, we're a part of the whole. 26 square miles, but comprised of over 50 different neighborhoods and civic associations.
The real appeal of the Big Idea Roundtables is the opportunity to bring people of different backgrounds together. So we've talked about how there's certainly a lot of opportunity and even desire to do this sort of focus group exercise with different groups of folks around the community. You know, some groups that may have been underrepresented that we want to continue to try to reach out to. So that might be one avenue where we head. We also heard some big themes that we might want to follow up on. How we bring, for example, an equity lens into our planning for our future, and land use might be an area for further kind of more intensive discussion. So, you know, we're just sitting down with everything we gathered, everything we heard, and trying to figure out the best way to keep this conversation going, whether it's another round of Big Idea Roundtables or a more focused and targeted direction. But one thing is for sure, this is the beginning of a conversation, certainly not the end of it.
It's one thing I noticed from a couple of the speakers. They said that they were just so glad to, I think, finally feel their voice was heard and they could, you know, kind of be honest in a forum with their peers. I think we do not really see, when we're involved with meetings, we're involved with policy, that people who don't come to board meetings, who don't engage with their government on a local basis, they really need this kind of outlet to express their views, and I think we can really get some great ideas out of it.
And it attracted that diversity. I mean, could it have been more diverse? No question about it, but the roundtables attracted not only the community activists, the folks that we see a lot, but it also attracted folks who, as the one woman indicated, you know, she came out, she thought it was an intriguing process and wanted to take advantage of it.
Okay, and so now how are you going to keep these thoughts in mind? You know, I wrote things down. I know there's no policy expected specifically from these roundtables, but how's it going to help you think a little bit differently as you're shaping the county's vision and policy moving forward?
One of my big takeaways, in addition to the equity piece, which is the chief one for me, and I'll be thinking about a lot in the months to come, but one of my big takeaways was the need that we have when we talk about public policy in this county to communicate it in terms of people. We had so many interesting conversations in these roundtables. When folks talk about their concerns about growth, they often talk in terms of the number of housing units, or the number of cars on the road, or the number of elementary, middle, and high school seats required. And that's almost a different conversation than the ones people are having when they talk about people. So people are excited about other people, their future neighbors. They're less excited about the units, the cars, the seats. And so I have this big takeaway that we have to start getting better in our conversations when we're talking about a 150-unit committed affordable project, for example. Who those people are, what kind of lives they lead, what they'll contribute to the neighborhood or continue to contribute if they're able to move from somewhere to a more rent-stabilized home. Really that need to be able to talk in our growth about the families, the individuals, the workers, the neighbors, the kids, the people.
All right, well, we'll see where they go from here, and thank you to all the community members who came and expressed your views.